Ladies and gents, should we go in 30 seconds? So if you're kind of standing, do take a seat. If not, we'll get into it. Into the meet of the day. So, ladies and gents, into our second panel of the day. And genuinely, really looking forward to this one. This is Beyond the Podium, the power of brands in athlete development. And it's a great pleasure to have with us Adepitan, TV presenter. We'll come back to that maybe a little bit later on. Paralympic medalist, journalist, and obviously a member of the Paralympic GB team. We have got Margaret Jobling, who's the Group Chief Marketing Officer of the NatWest Group. Welcome to you. And we've got Max Whitlock, Olympic gymnast, 3-time gold medalist, but who's counting? We might add to that. Can we have a very warm round of applause, first of all, to our trio up here? And what this panel is going to be about is bringing together NatWest Team GB and the Paralympic Team GB to explore the evolving role that brands can play in helping elite athletes thrive both inside and outside of sport. Can I start with you, Adi, therefore, first of all? For everything that you have achieved, can you just give us the underlying sense of how brands have helped you get to where you got to?
It's a good question. I think for Paralympic sport, the partnership with brands has been quite new, especially at a high profile level. And I'd say probably from 2012 was when things really kicked off. And obviously the most iconic brand partnership was with Channel 4. You know, and everyone remembers what, you know, the Superhumans campaign and how that absolutely just changed people's perceptions of disability and of Paralympic sport. So for me, yeah, that was where it began. And, you know, there's been plenty of other brands beforehand, but I think they set the blueprint. And I think the reason why they set the blueprint is because they were brave. They were brave, they were ready to think out of the box. They did stuff that was challenging. And they realized, you know, we had values that aligned. And they realized that there was an opportunity to do something that was really impactful and change perceptions. And I truly believe since 2012, the way people look at Paralympic sports and the way people look at disability has changed because of that partnership.
Fantastic. What about for you, Max? There's obviously, as a young athlete coming through, you're looking for support, and then success comes, and I presume some of these conversations get a bit easier with brands. Tell me about, did you have an inflection point in your career where the conversation changed and a sort of similar, you know, how important was brand support to you coming through?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think when you're young, you're an up-and-coming athlete. Of course, the brand support is essential at that point. And then as you kind of switch into, you know, bringing in results, making a name for yourself, I think that's where kind of the brand partnerships. Eddie talks about kind of alignment. That's when it kind of becomes more defined. You build partnerships rather than kind of just working with individual brands. I mean, that's when it becomes really important. When it surrounds an athlete as something that really aligns or really is a true partnership that fits well, works well, I think that's when it can expand your sport. We also saw, like in terms of the Paralympics, saw a massive surge in terms of London 2012 and how that changed that sport. But I think for gymnastics, that done the same for us. So I think that was a massive turning point for our sport as well, for me as an individual, but for individuals of gymnasts who, it wasn't a mainstream sport, but that catapulted us into kind of a new territory where brands started looking at gymnasts and using them and working together. And, you know, now we're in a position where we're seen in that light, and it can be very powerful when those match up and work really well with synergies.
It's a good point that, sorry if you don't mind me interjecting, but it's a good point that Max makes about sports that are not mainstream sports. And I think that's where the biggest distance or the biggest the improvement and impact can be made. You know, when you look at things like football, rugby and cricket, they're already up there. There are a lot of the athletes already household names. People know pretty much everything they need to know about football. And you know what underpants most of them are wearing, you know, everything, you know, all of that stuff. But when it comes to, you know, gymnastics, diving, sports that you find within the Paralympics and Olympics, that elevation can be incredible, and it has a deeper connection, I think, with the public as well.
When you are stepping into the world of athlete ambassadors, what are the considerations for NatWest?
So, I mean, I just wanted to pick up on a couple of things that these guys have said. The big thing when you start the partnership is strategic alignment. Like, what are we trying to do? What's whatever the sport, the athlete's trying to do, and how do you get value exchange on both sides?
Can I get you to sing a bit louder into the mic? I think it's quite quiet at the back.
Is
Yeah.
it quiet at the back?
That's better,
I said,
yeah.
one of the big things is aligning goals. Like, what are you trying to achieve? And so for us, it was really important because as a business, we're all about, how do we grow? How do we take action to get to a better future? And we were also launching a performance culture internally, which was about setting, basically helping the culture become more performance driven. So athletes were the epitome of that. I think then when you get to who do you choose, because we're such a diverse brand, national geography, everything from young people through to big corporate and institution. Actually, we wanted athletes that could really fit with segments. So we chose people with interesting backstories, with a great fit with our, we would go skateboarding, Lola for our youth target. So we spent a lot of time going, who are the people we're going to work with? And actually, it wasn't about the big names and the big sports. It was about the backstory, the courage, the inspiration,
How
the
dare
resilience.
you? We're huge names here.
Well, obviously, we made a few exceptions. But no, we really wanted people who could epitomise what we were trying to be and wanted to be as a business.
Did you want a kind of a unique positioning as you stepped into it? Did you look at what others were doing within the space and take
Totally.
notes from that?
I think it starts from what, as a business, do you stand for? What are you trying to achieve? And that's why, very rarely, we get presented with loads of partnerships. And when Team GB and ParalympicsGB came along, you were like, you're a gift for us because you're absolutely, totally aligned with who we are and what we want to do and how we want to build deep partnerships because we want to work strategic. We don't want to badge it. We don't want Max just tipping up. We go, we want to be totally inclusive. So work with us on our access to our buildings, on our customer experiences. We want a performance culture. Max, help us understand how to set goals, how to give feedback, how to coach. So we want breadth and depth in the partnership. We don't want, you get a bit corporate entertaining, but that's not what it's about.
Interesting. Wherever you look at the moment, the word authenticity seems to be popping up a lot. And to come to you, Max, did you notice a sort of a journey and a transition, I suppose, from what brands were asking you to do all the way through to brands saying, what are you doing and how can we help? Or was that there from the beginning, that kind of, let us support you, as opposed to, can you help us tell our story?
I'd say very slightly. I think as an individual, I've always been very conscious of the partnerships that I make, and I think that's always been very important to me, even from a young gymnast.
And what matters to you when choosing who to work with?
So I think there's a few things, and I feel very lucky over the many years. I've been a gymnast for 24 years, and I think when I started working with brands over the last kind of 15-ish years, I think I've seen what's kind of very important to me now. And it's kind of a few things that really kind of stand out. And it's interesting because the few brands that really do it right, I think, have an instant family feel. And I think that ticks back to the authenticity side and making sure that, and I think that also tips into the work that's done internally. And NatWest are incredible at that because it's not just all public facing, it's not just what's done externally, it's actually the amount of efforts that's done internally is crazy. And when you're an athlete and you become an ambassador into a brand like that, you feel that. So that kind of family feel, the alignment is massively important. I think that has to be one of the first priorities to make sure it aligns with where I'm going, what I'm doing, where's the brand going and what do they want to achieve to make sure it's a win-win partnership, because then it's always going to work and going to be a good fit. And then I think a brand that's going to maximize opportunities, that's going to activate. It's not going to sit still. It's not going to just almost we decide to work together and it doesn't do too much. So working with a brand where it's a family feel, it's nice people, it's people that are great to work with in an environment that is just a brilliant atmosphere, it aligns and we can maximize every opportunity. That's a win-win partnership, and then that sets you up for long-term goals as well.
And the bit I would add, because Max now, life after pommel horse, wants to be a businessman. So we run an accelerator for business people. We want to help you be successful as a businessman. So we're interested in how do we help you achieve your life goals, not just you as an athlete, you as a person, what's important to you.
Yeah, and I think that for me that's massively important. So I started working with NatWest, building up to Paralympic Games as an athlete. That kind of partnership with NatWest was amazing in terms of supporting that kind of peak performance pathway in that career and making sure we can maximise everything around that. But now we've slightly shifted in the way that we work together in terms of me working on the accelerator program and working on that business side, because for me, my focus has slightly changed. I've had to change being a retired athlete now. So now shifting into different departments of NatWest and how we can kind of still create that win-win partnership and make sure it continues to align all the way through.
It sounds like there are far deeper roots to the connections and the partnerships you're talking about. Has that been the same for you, Addy? Have you noticed that the way that you're collaborating with brands evolve over the time that you've been working with them?
Yeah, I think the whole idea and the concept of brands, I mean, it feels like we've been talking about it forever, but actually I feel as an athlete or former athlete that it's something that's quite new, brand partnership. And over the years, there's been mistakes. Some relationships have been quite clunky. Where
for you personally?
I maybe a little bit. I don't want to call anyone out, but maybe sometimes it can feel tokenistic. And sometimes it can feel like they just want your face on something. But I always feel, as a Paralympian, as an athlete with a disability, I feel like there's a bigger story and a bigger thing that we're trying to achieve, because the disabled community has always been the forgotten community, the afterthought community, and I always feel a little bit of a weight, and I don't mind it, but I feel like if I'm going to do something, it has to have meaning. Life's too short. It's way too short. And just to touch back on this sort of authenticity stuff that we've been talking about, I think a big reason why everyone is craving out for authenticity is we live in this world now where there's so much, everything's so superficial. There's so much curated perfection out there, and people can see that, and people are trying to break through that, and they're searching for something real. So the partnerships and the relationships have to be meaningful. They have to be challenging. There have to be something that moves the needle.
But we see in actual commercial results and internal engagement. So what we know is people who've got involved in our partnership with the Paralympics and the Team GB are more engaged in our business, they're more positive about our business, our customers are more positive, we get better commercial return on where we're seeing Team GB integrated into our journeys. So it is a win-win. Yeah. And one of the things from the Paralympics is their big push is equal play, because 75% of disabled children do not get to do physical education in school, which is an absolute disgrace. We're in 90% of schools doing financial education, so we're saying, how can we help you? Like, how can we have the route to market, work with you around your objective, because we really deeply care, because that's the societal impact, and I think that's where brands can really play.
See, just quickly on that, that sort of highlights the meaning of a partnership that works, where our values align. 20 years ago, people wouldn't be talking like that. We know that it's so difficult for people with disabilities to get that equal opportunity to play in sports. It was a struggle when I was at school, and it still is a struggle for many athletes. But the fact that you're prepared to talk about that and try and make that change at NatWest, or help us make that change, that's what a meaningful partnership's about.
Can I just ask you one more question? You mentioned about the fact that the sort of the ambassador element of what you're doing now is delivering results. And anyone here who's watched rugby or cricket will have seen NatWest on billboards and on the pitch, etc. Can you just compare and contrast that in a bit more detail for us? Are you wanting to invest more in the athletes than in the pitch side hoardings and the title sponsorships of particular sporting products?
I think, and we did a good job activating cricket and rugby, so I don't want to diss anything that we did on cricket and rugby, but it was what I would call a traditional partnership or sponsorship. So we did corporate hospitality, we did the hoardings, you did the branding on whatever. The difference for me on what we're doing now is it is literally breadth and depth. The athletes are in our business helping us shift the culture to be more performance driven, shift the culture to be more inclusive, figure out how as a business deliver against our strategic objectives. And that's deep. That's about relationship. It doesn't mean you're not spending on advertising, but this is about how do you connect it through fully. Because what we know is just putting it on a billboard is not going to drive into your organisation and really drive cultural change. And we're passionate about, we should have an inclusive culture. We should be really driving the next generation, because one of the biggest challenges in Britain right now is young people do not have hope about the future. Yeah. That's a problem. And if we're a brand that's about how do we drive economic growth for Britain, we've got to tackle that, which is get them into sport, get them more financially educated, give them opportunity to set goals, have purpose. And so this is why the alignment with my colleagues on the left and right becomes so important.
Okay. It's very interesting when you talk about inspiring the next generation. We're talking about athlete development as part of this. How conscious were you, Max, of the content that you put out, the messaging that you were in charge of, and I suppose the way that you portrayed yourself as part of these brand collaborations? Was that something that grew throughout your career as your confidence grew? Was that something you worked very hard at?
I think something that I wouldn't say work very hard at, but I was always very conscious of, like massively conscious of that. I think when we come from a sport that wasn't watched by many eyeballs, and then we catapulted onto the scene in London 2012 with the slogan, Inspire the Next Generation, we literally, as a group of gymnasts, took down our backs and tried to carry that forward. We wanted to take our sport to the next level and see where we could push it. So I've always been, from a young age, very, very conscious of what I put out, how I work with brands, what we're pushing out, the messaging, because it's always personal achievements, of course, but also how we're pushing the sport into the right direction, what message is that giving back. I'm working direct with schools now in terms of making sure children do have a good start all the way through. So my kind of Inspire the Next Generation I've taken that on really seriously and almost feel in an honoured position where I've managed to inspire a generation to get into sport. But now, it's all about kind of how can I keep pushing that positive message and pushing the right message, because like we've known, children need role models, they need people to look up to. And if we can control what that looks like as much as possible, then that's only hugely positive.
Would you add to that? I'm just interested from the brand's perspective, how much you want to empower the voice, and the flip side of that is work on how you are included in that messaging.
Say a bit more, Alex. I don't get the question.
Just in terms of, you've got you are working now on an ambassador program where, as a brand, you are looking at who the people are and supporting their story. Are you enabling that and just letting them go in that regard as a brand sponsor, or are you trying to weave yourself into the messaging that gets put out there? Where does the balance lie between authenticity of their voice and including your brand in that messaging?
I think we see our role as an amplification of their voice, because what we know for sure is people do aspire to be what they can see. And what has been fabulous working with the athletes is they come from all walks of life and experiences, and but are very focused on delivery and success. And so for us, we are there to help amplify and to create the role models and give them scale, because we have the channels and we have the volume and we have the investment. We're not there to tailor their message at all. We're saying, how can we use what you've done to be an inspiration to the next generation as it comes through?
Okay. To sort of throw it out to people in the room who might be interested in getting involved, Annie, what would your advice be to brands who want to enter this space of brand ambassadorship at this point in time?
Wow, it's a good question. I think just go for it, but we've touched upon all the points. Find the athletes and the sport that your brand aligns with, that your values work with, and try and forge a deeper partnership, and have a plan. Have a plan. Don't just go into this with, just some sort of scattergun approach. Look and say, this is where we want to be at the start of the partnership, and this is where we want to be in a few years' time, and this is what we want to achieve along the line.
And what about from a brand perspective? What trends are you seeing? Where do you think it goes from here?
I mean, I do think authenticity, I know we talk about it, it is a massive, real human connection in a world that, you know, I spent half my life talking about agentic, and I do not believe we're going to all have a digital twin and never talk to a human again. So for me, the big thing is, how do you keep it real? How do you connect with people? How do you give them experiences? Because I still maintain we live in a real world and we need humans. So I think the big push for us is, how do you create money can't buy, real people experiences? We know when people meet the athletes, that's a game changer. I can send them a video, I could do whatever, but there is nothing like sat next to Adi or Max and talking to them about their experiences. So for me, it's going to be human connection. I think that will be the big drive that will keep us real.
Yeah.
I think that'd be very interesting, because we've obviously seen, in terms of brand partnerships, work to kind of increase credibility by working with certain athletes a while back. It become very kind of influencer vibe. Now it's becoming very kind of, AI is becoming huge. But so I think that always tailors back to authenticity, because I think it will come full circle and come back to that credibility and what's real, what people can trust, because there's going to be more and more that's being put out there that if you just believe in what you see in first time, you're going to be misled constantly. So real partnerships, something that really matches and aligns, is always going to shine above everything else.
Fantastic. Some very, very interesting points on what has been and what may well be to come. Can we just finish? I'm going to invite you to have a look at the screens. We've got a very short video which sums up what we've been talking about. Have a look at this.
There's something happening. Can you feel it?
Today's the day.
To smash through that wall, race all the way.
Take that first step. Play to your own beats. Break the mold.
Don't think that perfect is the starting point.
Can she do it?
Well, she's cleaned it.
Or even the end point.
Well, can she hold it?
It's all just a beautiful mess.
Yes, she can.
This whole thing, the lives we lead.
It's about the start. That's the art.
now begins to make her move.
And nobody can do it for you.
I'll tell you one thing. Never trying is a lot more painful than failing.
So do something.
Start small.
But we're talking today.
Who would have thought riding a bike for a living would inspire so many girls?
Who knew permanent scars could make you a role model?
She is making history here.
Who would have thought an Olympic cyclist could also be a children's author? Sport, life is the same thing, isn't it?
Time doesn't last. You blink, and it's gone.
So back yourself. Follow your dreams. Do what you love. What you're crazy about.
Set a goal and get out there.
Start this very second.
I promise one thing.
You'll never regret getting started.
Tomorrow begins today. Let's get going.
I think that does get a round of applause, particularly when you see the incredible Sir Chris Hoy. Just a final question. When you watch that, fundamentally, is everything we're talking about here coming back to inspiring the next generation, letting those who are doing it be their best and bringing through the next talented generation?
It is, and it makes me cry every time I watch that video. Yeah, so yes.
Quite right. We'll leave it there. A fabulous note on which
Thank
to
you.
end. But Adi, Max, Margaret, thank you very much. Adi, please give them a huge round of applause.
Cheers. Thank you.
Well done, well done.